wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and we're going to have the talk again. Yeah, you know the one. Things are starting to get ugly here in TFC land. We're coming to you a couple hours before, hopefully, we have a good night with the Canadian men's national team against Venezuela in the quarterfinals of the Copa America. But we do need to talk a little bit about the Reds. Another week, another tough loss. We try to figure out, should we be panicking? Is this club back in crisis mode? We'll also touch in on John Herdman's comments after the midweek loss against Orlando. And we will talk a little bit about the now super important first leg of the Canadian Championship semi-final against Forge FC this coming Wednesday, because, you know, it's looking like one of those seasons where the Canadian Championship might be the ray of light for this club. So much to get into. A little quick show for you this week, but we're bringing in my co-hosts this week, Jeffrey P. Nesker, and from the Tunnel Club, Sean Levy and Noel Allen. Gents, how are we doing? I think we all just came off watching maybe one of the most boring Euro quarterfinals of all time. Absolute snoozer. But how are we all doing today?
I did fall asleep. That's the important factor.
You dodged that bullet.
I have no more espresso left. I'm on instant coffee. I don't think I'm sleeping for days, gentlemen. So that's out of my wheelhouse. Yeah.
I'm starting to think. I thought England was bad. I thought England was the most boring team in this tournament. But man,
they still are. They still are.
I don't know. I just watched that French team for an hour and 20 minutes. That's like watching Mrs. Doubtfire again. I wouldn't like that time back in my life, right? So rough.
What a difference, eh? Because like that first game, that Spain-Germany game, fantastic.
Game.
Well,
I was a little worried for a bit there. I have Spain winning the Euro, so I was a little worried there for
well, don't worry, you've got Anthony Taylor to thank for being in that round. You know, he's been great this year.
Yeah, definitely secret agent, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's having a great time watching Euros. A lot of people having a great time watching Copa America. No one is having a great time watching Toronto FC at the moment. It's 1 win in 10. It's starting to look like how we may have thought this season was going to look at the beginning. And, you know, let's open it up, guys. I want to open it up to all of you and get your thoughts. I know you guys talked about this on the Tunnel Club. A lot of our listeners have comments on how this sort of streak is going. But, you know, the central question here is, are TFC back in crisis again? Is this a crisis club again? Because it feels like we were getting out of that forest, or that little wood, if you want to call it that. But it seems like we're walking right back into it. So wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, is TFC becoming a crisis club again? Guest first, Noel, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
You know what? I've been thinking about this since that disaster of a game. Like, I look at it and go, well, you know, am I overreacting? Am I panicked by it? Right? Because, you know, it's been rough to watch. I think since Chicago, they have just been awful. And I think the way we have been playing is, you know, partly due to because what's left is just not that good. And I think the Italians passing to each other again indicates that. I think they don't trust what's in the middle, what's around them. And I think we look at this team and go, well, we're easy to play against. We're very easy to play against. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Spicer should get a pay rise at this point, because, man, without his pace to go in behind that threat and on that run, like, we can't do anything. So
Turts was just saying he muted us because we were giving away Euro scores. So I've lost being back on streaming. Turts, it's safe. Also, not Penny's boat. You can come back, Turts. We miss you. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. But no, I just think we can't stretch. We can't get in behind. We can't stretch teams. They're sitting in banks of 4s and 5s in the midfield, and they're just watching us play from side to side, back to back. It's just not working because we can't go in behind. We are one dimensional, and teams have now figured out if you compact the midfield, you compact the thing. We ain't playing those through balls in between the lines. We can't play and break on the break anymore because the pace isn't there. And it's just evident we can't seem to get anything going, and we are predictable to the point. So back to the point is, are we in a crisis? We're in a holding pattern. We're in a holding pattern until everybody comes back. And then you kind of hope that we can get something going late in the end of the season, like the start of the season. But it doesn't look good right now. And I think to your points last week about, have certain players been told that they don't have a future after the season? I do think those conversations have been had. I think that's
agree.
part of, I get players are still playing for contracts, but, I just think there's some clear evidence of down tools or, lack of effort because they're not in for the long haul.
Sean, thoughts?
I mean, I think Noel said it perfectly. I mean, we anyone who was at the game on Saturday saw exactly what we thought. Like, it was one dimensional in the sense of we only have two players that seem to feel that they need to do it all instead of trying to work their team a little bit better. Teams know how to shut down Insigne, Bernardeschi. And I remember seeing someone tweet it that, we were playing better when we actually had just one of the DPs because Bernardeschi was forced to actually use his teammates and trust them more. And other players were getting involved a lot better in the build-up, and we were actually spreading the field, moving the ball a lot better. You've gone back to, all right, let's feed it to the Italians and let them do the work. And they're brilliant footballers, but if they feel the need that they have to do it all, there's no way we're in. Like, at the end of it, that's impossible. And we've seen it. Can you shut us down? They get frustrated. Like, I'm not going to criticize their work rate, their work effort, because, they're running. There's times where it looks like they're the only two running back and forth up and down that pitch, going all the way to defense to bring it back up. Yeah, they turn it over, but like, at this point, I don't even know what else to say. Like, I think we really have to just hold on till we get reinforcements in the sense of are as close to our full squad as possible, and let's see what pieces can be added. Because when you see Kosi Thompson starting at right center back versus a couple other that. Like, not going to Shane O'Neal's come back from injury. Not going to expect him to start, but if he's starting over Roasted, is he a player that is possibly on the way out? Like, I don't know. I'm just at this point, I have to wait to see, like, at the end of this month, how we really look.
All right, Jeffy.
It's all like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be mean and rude, but this idea, well, they're running up and down the pitch, and so we can't fault them. It's all in isolation. They're running up and down. I mean, it's the same thing that we keep hearing. I shared a bunch of comments from WTR, fresh knee-jerk reactions off the back of the game with with you guys. And it's all the same old, this idea that the DPs aren't surrounded by quality players or pylons or whatever the case may be. Well, if they're only going to play with themselves, can you expect Matty Longstaff or Prince Owosu to keep making runs when they're never getting the ball? You know what I mean? Risk injury, risk fatigue. Yep. It's not happening. So it's this catch-22, and then this idea, well, obviously, the Lorenzo and Fede are running there. And I think we have to separate the two because Fede he can't do any wrong this season for me. And it's weird for me to say it, but, just because they're running, you can't take that in isolation. Like, they're gonna run and they're gonna play with each other. I don't think we can fault the other people for not going along with that because, I saw a really good comment saying, Matty knows that Lorenzo, just for example, is going to try and dribble through 18 guys and be dispossessed, right? So he's a smart enough footballer to know that he's not going to add to the attack. You may want to stay back there and protect your defenders because Lorenzo's going to give the ball away. There's a 0.000% chance he's going to pass to you and a not 0% chance he's going to get dispossessed. You gotta mop up his mistakes. So these players are kneecapped. You cannot. It's totally unfair to deride them for not putting in the work when it's obvious that they've got better things to do than flail around waiting for passes that aren't going to come. That's just my knee-jerk thought on all this going on, because obviously I was making fun Mad Libs go in there and I was starring comments. This is a really good one, and it's been sort of recycled but G Money was first, and it was, we've had summer slumps like this under every manager and every season except one. I've seen this echoed in comments from MLS Mothership. Our team can't even play through Toronto's humidity right now. I do think we have to have a margin for that. How much is anybody's guess. Anyway, to finish my comment, Matty Doyle told us at the season preview to put the panic button away. Not just put it away, but forget it exists. I'm in that boat. I listened to him. There is no panic button. This season was gravy. There was always going to be a regression because we've rolled it back with a flawed roster. There was always going to be a moment where John Herdman had to switch from motivational speaker to actual nuts and bolts coaching. His default setting is motivational speaker, and if you're that good at it, you're going to ride that until it runs out, and it's running out now. So it's a big test for him and his staff. And beyond that, and I was saving this for if and when we do a herd is the word, but I was worried about this when he came out. What was it, off the back of the Chicago Fire game or whatever game it was? Like, they all bleed into one now, and said, "This is the most disappointing I've ever been in my 400,000 years of coaching." I'm obviously exaggerating. There's no way. There's nothing beyond that, right? That's blowing your.
I still think you're reading too much into that, Jeff.
Yeah, but
listen. The stretch.
Listen, I've seen it. And if we do a herd is the word tonight, you'll see it too.
We will.
He's out of things to say, right? Like, there's only so many times you can pull that cord, and you can't do it anymore. And I think it was a folly to pull it that early, because now everything else is less than that. And so as this, inertia of garbage continues, we've already played the nuclear option. So I just feel like there's a lot of things that we expected, and they're all happening at the same time. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and this is interesting because you brought it up. So let's talk about it. And I think, and this goes to my point of whether I think it's a crisis club. I don't think the club's in crisis. However, this is now going to be a test for John Herdman, like the first real test since he's taken over Toronto FC. And how do you think he can turn this around? Because, yes, he's had some periods with the national teams where things weren't exactly going well. But really, he mainly was up with the national teams, right? Mostly things went his way. Things were going relatively well in his stint with the national team. This, to me, is like the first real bit of adversity that he's had to face. Obviously we're on an outside view, so obviously there's things internally that he would bring. But in terms of his just general management of a team, this is his first real difficult, sticky patch where just things are not going right. So how does he turn this around? Because Jeff, you talked about changing the flipping the switch from being the motivator to the manager or the coach, right? And it looks like, at the beginning of the year, it looks like the tactics were relatively on. But it seems lately that, as you said, Noel, at the top, he's become a bit predictable. People know how this team is going to play, and they've kind of figured them out. So what does he need to do to help turn some of this around? And I'll leave it open to you guys, whoever wants to jump in first.
You know what I think he's got to do? He's got to adapt a little bit, right, to what he's got. It's clearly not working. So maybe there's a formation change in there, right? I'll put it in a Euro context. It's like Gareth Southgate. You've got no Mark Gahey tomorrow, so you got to go 3 at the back. I think he has to change. I think he has to adapt and kind of find a different way to move these guys around into different spots to be less predictable. I do think, just back a little bit on your point, I think a part of that message out to the, when he mentioned the fans and losing the fans and thinking the fans better, and a couple of the comments this week that are in his presser, I think they're not necessarily a message to the fans. I think they're a message to the hierarchy above him that we got to do something. And a part of changing that culture is, we've got to start making decisions that may not be popular. They may have to put their hand in their pocket if they really want to get this team out of turmoil. Because, I think somebody just mentioned there in the chat that we've got pretty much 4 games till the transfer window opens. So you're going to have to ride through. You're going to have to figure it out. But I think it's a clear indication to, everybody at the club behind the scenes, not just to the fans, but I think it's a clear indication that you can't just band-aid this team anymore. You've got to have wholesale changes at some point.
Yep.
And, we're kind of at that point where you kind of can see who's going and who's not going. So, it's tough for him, but you know what? It's going to make him better on the other side. I think, we know he said that there'll be times this year where it's going to be difficult. And I think we're at that point. The pressure now becomes Bill Manning, which we all know, Jason Hernandez, and the other guys that came in on recruitment to kind of get some organizational change and help support the team. Because at the end of the day, we know we're going to get some players back. And I think, we've missed Oso. We've missed Richie. Remember, we've only had Richie for 1 game. So I think once he's back and firing on all cylinders, yeah, you can make a huge difference. And I think the energy and the passion kind of comes from those guys because they're local guys. I'm still a big believer in that. So, those are things, I obviously, we're all going to be pulling for Canada tonight, but part of me, if they're back next week, I'll also be quite happy. So it's a win-win either way. So he's just got to adapt a bit. And I think at the end of the day, it's a message. It's not a cry to us. It's a cry to the ownership of this team that we need to make some changes, and it might cost you some money to do it.
I'm just going to go back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I'm just going to say, I have to agree with Noel. I think at this phase, it's like he realizes that, you know what, we're just not good enough with the roster we have.
Yeah.
And we need change.
Yeah.
You can't sugarcoat it. You can't try to force things out of nothing. Like, we don't have the skill. We don't have, or enough skill. We don't have enough quality in certain positions. We don't have depth. We've been calling this, like, on the Tunnel Club all season long, what we need, but it's glaringly more obvious now how bad it is. At least from a fan's perspective. I think there's no fan that can, have any hopes on some players think that they're going to snap out of this funk or whatever. They're just not meant to be in this club.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because, you've got valuable spots. I think Dirt's brought it up, like U22 spot is kind of sitting there being wasted right now, right? When you look at other clubs and how they're building their rosters and using that mechanism to drive themselves. I know I always say Miami is a bit of an outlier, but in a sense, they have used that initiative really well and essentially carrying them during this period where they don't have Messi and they don't have Suarez. Right. Yep. So,
very, very true.
That stuff is what this window is going to have to. And I'm saying you're not going to do it all in one window. There's just no way you're going to do it all. Like, I don't think, unless they pull something off massive, I don't think there's a DP coming because they don't technically have a DP spot available.
Never.
So, you're going to have to start utilizing these tools to get better depth into this team because I think Noel, Sean, Jeff, you've all said it. A lot of you have said it in the comments as well. This team is just not deep enough. If you lose an Oso and a Richie, yes, they're incredibly important players to this team, especially Oso, right? Like, this team doesn't generally this season lose that much when Oso's in the lineup. But if those guys, we know those guys have to go on international duty. Like, we know they have to go, right? So you've got to build some depth around these players that if they go, players that are good enough and experienced enough to be able to step into their positions and carry the team. And right now you have essentially a few unplayable players. Like, I know we're talking about further down the depth chart players, but, Cassius Mailula essentially right now is unplayable in MLS, right? Like, you can't put him on a pitch at the moment. I mean, Mabika, he's essentially playing because you have no other options at center back, right? So, but he shouldn't be playing on the pitch, right? That's 2 already. You're now starting to think about some other players. Does Kosi Thompson have a future with this team? Do you start looking at some other players that are on the roster? You're thinking, maybe do you have a future at this team, right? And those are the things. Those are hard questions that have to be asked during this window. Look, I don't want to advocate for people losing their jobs. That is not something I ideally want to do. But at the same time, if the team wants to go where it wants to go, some very tough decisions are going to have to be made about the composition of this roster. And
Raul Petretta,
Guys,
highest paid left back in the league.
Look, if he was on a better contract, he'd be fine, right? But he's not on a better contract. That's the problem.
He's also not the issue.
No, it's not. I think no hits that price tag, 100%. But the problem is like that, and that's not on John Herdman. That's from the previous regime. So that's something like we know that at some point we'll get righted, right? Like you guys have talked it on your show. We said it. A good percentage of this roster will not be here come next season. Contracts are up. They're not going to be renewing majority, and they can't. If they want, a competing team next year, you know what? Maybe bring 1 or 2 as backup to backups, and at the cheapest. Okay, well maybe not.
Clean
what I mean? Like,
you've got what, 9? Is it 9 or 10 that we've got expiring at the end of the season? It's a lot.
It's something 10. Around that. Yeah.
I think you kind of gotta have wholesale change. You do desperately need to make wholesale change.
Gavrin's going to get re-signed. We have to have a legitimate backup.
He's good though. He's good.
Right, and that's the thing is there might be 1 or 2 other players of that you know what, at a cheaper contract, better suited.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think goalkeeper's not the issue right now, right? Like goalkeeper's not the thing we need to worry about. I think right now the areas you need to think about, midfield, you need to think about your center backs, and I think you need to think about your striker position, right? And those are sort of the 3 that need to be kind of taken a deeper look at, not in terms of just having enough players, right? But quality players in those positions, right? And that's sort of the rub right now. It's going to take a few windows to fix that. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
I've been sitting on my hands enough, and let me preface this by saying I'm still all about the vibes. First point, your point of John Herdman's adversity. He's had adversity before, but he's always been able to make it into an us versus the big bad man, us versus the Canadian Federation, the evil federation that's not giving me the money to do what needs to be done, etc., etc., etc. There is no boogeyman here beyond the obvious lack of skill and depth, right? So you can't put this on somebody else, and that's where the issue lies. What are we doing, fellas? Raul Petretta isn't the problem. Cassius Malula, it's a waste of a U22 spot. That's fine. But Cassius Malula's budget charge because of that U22 spot isn't the problem. Kosi Thompson and Kobe Franklin catching strays because of how they're playing on the pitch with those divas is unfair to the players, and they're going to catch those strays, and that's what's really frustrating about this. Guys, stop dancing around the maypole here. The issues are we can't afford players because we are paying so much money to one of the biggest, and I'm not talking about Fede. Fede is earned my respect. It's the other guy that I'm completely over again. You cannot pay that amount of money and have a depth on your squad. It's not Kosi Thompson does not have to answer for it, right? Raul Petretta, sure, we're overpaying him. There's a bunch of guys getting overpaid on MLS clubs, worse than Raul Petretta. Raul Petretta is doing a job. For Pete's sake, he was playing Lorenzo Insigne's position for half of the last game, right? And he did better than Lorenzo. He's responsible for the goal that Etienne scored. We're polishing deck chairs on the Titanic. We're not asking the right questions. Everybody's complaining. I'm so sick of the argument, if only we could surround these guys with better players. We could surround them with themselves. We could clone them, surround them. We could field a team of 11 Lorenzos or 11 Fedes, and we would still suck because they're just not the answer, and they're too expensive. It's as simple as that. So what does John Herdman do to turn this around? We got to wait it out. It's the same thing we've been doing since the beginning, since we realized what an unholy mistake this was, and it was never going to work. And we're just twisting ourselves into logical pretzels, trying to make a different answer because we don't like this one. It's as simple as. It's a simple answer.
I don't think it's
and
that
it's
simple,
right there.
I don't.
There are trickle down effects, but to completely extricate it and just say no, what he's doing is fine, and it's Cozy Thompson's fault or Ralph Petretta's fault or Luca, that's insanity.
But it's insane to necessarily pin it on just Lorenzo Insigne. There's no way you can just pin it on the D. Yeah, I know what he gets paid. All right, like we know what he gets paid.
We were there, Mikey. Like that petulance. Like do something, man. You know what I mean?
But but you accept. Like that's the thing. I keep coming back to this, and I know we keep going around this all the time, right? We keep talking about like petulance, like he has these moments where he lashes out or something like that. That's what he's supposed to try to exude an attitude of. This has to be better. You got to have a few guys like that in your team. You know who we had like that?
Fair play.
Sebastian Giovinco, and we were fine with it, right? Like,
and he
again,
made other players
goals.
better.
Yes.
He didn't create this symptom where it's okay to turn off, right? Like it's. Of course, but they're not the same. They're not the same. There were results with that petulance. This is just petulance.
Yeah, because he had a better team around him, Jeff. He had a better team around him.
I don't buy it.
I gotta agree with Mike on this. That consistently, the level of consistent players around that team compared to now is the biggest difference. Like you've got guys week in and week out.
That's just because they won.
Mirage,
no, but they won because they had a better overall. Yeah, sorry, Noel. I just they won. That team won. He played better because he had better quality talent around him, and there was depth on that team. Right. So, yes, of course, he was great. Like he himself could win games. We know Sebastian Giovinco could win games by himself. We know that. But he had Josie and he had a prime Michael. Eventually he gets Victor Vasquez. You have central midfielders who win the ball and gun it out for the team. You had two center backs that were competent, would win balls aerially and make the right pass and play out of the back. And you had left and right backs that were arguably some of the best in the league. Right. So like from that perspective, like you have a better team. And then you're talking about bring on a Tosaint Ricketts. You're talking about I'm not saying Tosaint Ricketts is the greatest player of all time, but the quality level there in terms of bringing in somebody who we know can do a job. Right. That's there. That's not on this team right now. And like part of it is because we have a lot of young players that have come through the academy and this is their first or second year. So you're right. We do bash them a lot, or not bash them, but we get on them sometimes, right? We get on them because we know they can be good. We know they have quality within them to be a serious contributing part of this team. But at the moment, it's just not there at the moment. And there just isn't enough talent around them. It's just true. I'm sorry. There isn't enough talent around those two to be able to really say, well, it's just their fault this time, right? And
that's not
yeah. Yeah, and I get it too, right? Like the salary is the salary, but like it was said in the chat, his cap hit's the same if he's making 15 million, if he's making 5 million, right? So the cap hit isn't the issue. Obviously,
not in the locker room.
MLSE draw the budget up for the team. Yes, that impacts it definitely. But right now there just isn't enough quality around the guys. And again, maybe you're right. Maybe in the end they go through the window, they bring in some more quality, and then we find out, okay, yeah, it's not working.
I think we found out already.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but that's
I don't think we can afford that quality.
You can. That's my point about Raul Petretta, right? I'm at the. Can you get two guys? Derby Flores is what 400,000-500,000, something like that. Can you get what you get for Raul? You can get two other players that are solid in depth. It's how it's split is my issue. not Raul. I like Raul. I actually think he's got quite a good solid. But he again is always the. Do you remember when they used to have the conversation about Paul Pogba? That he's the guy that you bring in last. He's the cherry on top of the cake. I sometimes feel we buy those players first and then try and squeeze everybody else in and around it. And that's the problem we generally have. We've got players that are they're the finished articles when everybody else is not the finished article. That's my issue.
One thing I will say, and I'm not agreeing with Jeff, but I'll say this. And I think we all know Insigne is not the type of player that's going to necessarily make his teammates better. And, and I think it's clearly prime examples when he was hurt, the team was actually playing like a team. And that's hands down fact. As soon as he's come
damning
back,
indictment.
He's regressed, and we no longer look like a team. And I'm not blaming him. That's a different. I'm not blaming him. I think part of the problem is some players change their style of play once he's on the pitch. But I think we do have to. The club has to take a look at long term. Like he's here till 2026. That's 2 more seasons. Like, you really got to take a hard look at this offseason if you can add the right pieces to truly get the best out of it. Because I mean, how much longer will it before before Freddie says, you know what, I'm out. You know what, like because he's bought in, and there's not one person that I think can justify throw any criticism at him this year the way he's played. But after this year, if we don't make the playoffs, if we're looking from the outside in, how's he going to feel? Is he going to come in as motivated come next year?
Feel like we had the same conversation this time last
year. Yeah, I mean, who cares? That's a Fede problem, right? Like wondering, making our roster decisions on whether or not player X is going to be happy 8 months from now is a folly. Like, who cares? If he's not, go. You know what I mean? Like, I just, to me, it feels like we see something with our eyes and we're like, no, I hate that, so I'm going to create a murder mystery, around why I don't like what I'm seeing with my eyes, to explain that what my eyes are telling me is wrong for 2.5 years with 2 more years to go. It's not working. We're stuck with this contract. No one's going to take him. We're not going to buy it out because it's a folly. We want to talk about bad roster construction, but I'm so sick of seeing the minnows on the squad take all of the flack while people are like, God, if Lorenzo wasn't playing with Raul Petretta, he'd score 26 goals this year. That's insane. That's not happening. He's not scoring 26 goals in MLS ever, in this or any other universe. I
look at this whole team as a failure. Not one. There's not one on there. There's a whole team as a failure because and as I said this before, I keep calling it the unicorn. This team fully fit with everyone starting is a unicorn. We just can't seem to get to that point.
It's never happening.
The only silver lining we have is, 3-4 weeks, we should have a lot of players back. I hope that we kind of just bounce out of Leagues Cup pretty quick. And then we can just have these guys just get back as much healthy for the end of the season and hope together you put a run together like you did at the start of the season and we see where we go. But I'm not blaming Lorenzo. I'm not blaming Fede. I'm just saying that the construction of the actual full roster from top to bottom, there's too many gaps. There's too many weak parts. And if 1 or 2 of those parts are out, we are a hot mess at times. And you can't change tactics when you've got guys that can't take basic formations, basic tactics, and make it. Because Mabika the other day, he's like having a heart attack every time he goes to rugby tackle somebody at the back. It's we struggle with these guys that just they just need more development. They need more growth somewhere else before they get into it. Getting into an MLS side should mean you've put your grass in somewhere else. And I think the loan system, sending guys out and making them better, then bringing them back into MLS teams will make them a lot stronger. Look at Jaden Nelson when he's gone away, he's left, and he's been with a proper team for a while. His development's been great. And I think we struggle with the development side, and that's where these guys aren't developing, and they're getting worse because their confidence is shot, right? So there's a lot to it. It's just ultimately we just not got the strong enough team unity to handle that.
Sorry, Jeff, you respond, but I think we should jump into Herd's the word.
Yeah, I think they're getting worse because they're learning bad habits because they're playing with bad players who don't respect what they can bring, who've belittled them, who are basically echoing your sentiments, but much, much meaner. You know, like, think about it. You're a human being. You're a professional soccer player. You're in a locker room with a guy that's earning 50 times what you're making, who's also committed zero, whose body language is atrocious, and is telling you you're a piece of shit, right? Like, when do you check out? Who cares if they're bought in anymore? If them being bought in means that the rest of the team are completely checked out. And then as a further insult to injury, every one of us fans are immediately going to parrot this pervasive view that it's their fault. How is it their fault? We're like, you can't say in one sentence, they need to learn, they need to develop, and oh my God, they're not the finished article. They can't play with this Ferrari from Serie A who's made of glass. Like, they're mutually exclusive concepts that we seem ever so willing to just jump into and mash together into this souffle of bullshit. It's unconscionable bullshit. These kids do not deserve it. And if I was one of them, I would be so mad right now. So mad. And I know I'm not a soccer player, and I know I can easily be corrected by they're professionals. They've got to live in two different worlds, and they've got to be, soccer player first, human second, all of that stuff. I don't buy it. Again, I'm bringing up Occam's razor. Is everybody Machiavelli in that locker room, or are they human beings with real human feelings? Like, I'm inclined to believe the latter.
This isn't new, though. This is the Landon Donovan, David Beckham thing, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a great. How was that solved?
It's not been solved because this is the MLS confines that we are restricted to, and this has always been my argument. The DP system, I think, is now contradicted to what MLS wants to be because it is disparaging. I think ultimately the foundation of the league is the issue. The construction of the cap is an issue. I could spend a whole hour going on about that for, just it's been here since Beckham came and Landon Donovan. If you watch the Beckham documentary and they discuss it, it's still relevant today. And I don't disagree with that point. I think at the end of the day, you sit down and look at it and go, this guy's making 15 million a year and this guy's making 67,500. And this guy's like, that's a horrendous difference. If you go to
the guy making
team, you've got no one with that. You're going to have somebody on 400,000 a week and a guy making, 100,000 a week. It does create that. And I think that's part of the, more than what we can do in this league and more than our problem. But yeah, it's just the construction is just ultimately where it falls down. And at the end of the day, we know where it's kind of gone, and we can sit here and discuss it till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it there because there's a lot to talk about there. Again, we do a whole show.
Yeah, and I'm getting on my bullshit again, and people are going to.
Well, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, like, I disagree. I don't, I'm not pinning it all on the kids, but I do. Look, the roster is the roster right now. July 18th is coming, and we'll see what roster moves are made at that point, right? Because that's when decisions are going to have to start being made.
Let's go.
Right?
Heard is the word.
All right.
Perfect. Boom.
Can I see that paper for a sec? Huh, that's odd. What are you talking about? Oh, have you not heard? Heard what? heard the word. heard the word. Don't you know about the herd? Surfing!
Anything can happen in football these days.
I did that fun thing where I clipped like basically every question and answer, and I wanted to roll the one that he kind of slagged Lorenzo, but considering that I'm already going to be beaten in public square for my Lorenzo takes this week, let's just roll this one. Here we go.
John, you got the start you wanted, but it's the same old ending with another unfortunate goal. What was your take on the evening?
Yeah, I think we started brightly. I think it looked like we were going to get control of the game pretty early. I'm proud of the lads that took their opportunities tonight. I mean, Bika, he's been waiting a while for that shot. Corsi Thompson as well. You know, they put honest shifts in and just fought for the club, fought for the jersey. And the lads that came into the game, I think the Jaquils, the Kobe Franklins, Shane O'Neills, I thought they had a big impact. But we had a 20-minute period. I mean, it's the story of TFC this season. These 20-minute periods where, for whatever reason, whether we're playing at home or away, there's just not that desire or intensity. It's like, you know, the game gets too easy. We score a goal, and you know, same with Nashville. Just a period where we take the foot off the gas, and it's a mental trap we keep falling into. And once it's one guy or two guys, then 3 follow, 4 follow, and you're not getting the rhythm of the pressing or the attacking. So, you know, Neil, this has to be a turning point for the club tonight. I said that to the players after the game. It has to be the turning point. There's got to be some hard conversations in the next 2 days, starting with all of us looking at ourselves in the mirror for that 20-minute period. You know, what happened there? You know, why is it happening? You know, why do we fall into that trap game after game after game? So I'll start with me and my staff. We'll have some hard conversations, and then internally I think each individual player will need to do that themselves, because if this isn't a turning point, man, this season can slide away very quickly.
Thoughts, gentlemen?
Sounds
Not
like
wrong.
some people's heads on the block. That's what I got.
Right?
Yeah.
know,
That's
but he's
the
not.
windows come. Oh, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, he's not wrong. Like, can you fault him for anything he said? He's admitting within himself that him and his staff need to take a look at it. What can they do better? And I think they have to. You know, Noel brought it up earlier with tactics. You know, like at this stage of your career, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to adjust. You have to know your opponent, know their strengths, their weaknesses, and find ways to, you know, maybe by uh, setting up a different formation, become more effective against that opponent. He's too, like, everyone knows what TFC is. You said it, Mike. Every team knows how to defend this team, but do we know how to defend other teams? Because I don't think we have any different tactics or formations that can show that we can.
Yeah, it's his comments were interesting. Like, that is a very much the window is about to open kind of, you know. Like, and look, Jeff, I think that, you know, I know you clipped the one where he seems to go at Lorenzo. I think he's kind of going after Lorenzo a little bit there too, right? In the sense that he's pointing out the younger players, right? And he's pointing out the guys who came in and, you know, put in, you know, hard work or honest shifts or whatever the term he used.
G Money. I mean, this is I got
you nailed it.
Queued it up.
G Money's comment is
honest
nailed
shifts equals work hard but lack quality.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know about that. I also don't know, Sean, if they can do anything. You know, for sure have that moment with the mirror. There are too many passengers and there are too many uncoachable players that are starting too often. Do you think John Herdman did a whiteboard talk and said, okay, guys, what I want you to do is I want Fede and Lorenzo to just pass aimlessly to each other. I want Fede to launch 100,000 long balls to, Lorenzo to launch 100. This is my game plan, guys. I'm the gaffer. This is what I want. I want Lorenzo to just try and dribble through 40,000 people. And when he can't, I want him to launch a long ball at Fede. I want Fede to just pass back to Lorenzo. The rest of you guys just hang out. Don't worry, they'll save us. Because if he did, then that's not John Herdman. I would bet the farm. I would go all in. That's not the game plan, he said. So what's he supposed to do? Give out a game plan, study the video. When the S hits the fan, they're going to do the same thing over and over again. And it's not the Cozy Thompsons or the Ame Mabikas that are going to stand on the field and say, hey guys, pass it to me. There's nobody there to do it. There's nobody there to do it. The inmates are running the asylum, right? So I just see the frustration, you know? To me, it feels like, you know, Herdman came in with that binder, and a big part of that binder was getting buy-in from the DPs, which he did, which is great. But I knew that, and I think everybody knew that the second adversity hit, it was going to be this way. And now there's the frustration of my motivational speaking isn't working anymore, because of course it wasn't, because at the end of the day, we know what this roster is. And the frustration of now dealing with the fan base and the pressure and knowing that they can do nothing. They can do nothing. He's not going to call out Lorenzo in the press conference. You know, he's not. And if this is the most that he's going to, then we're kneecapped already. I mean, a performance like that from your designated player, I don't care who they are, deserves some kind of lip service in a press conference. If we're afraid to do it, that you have to assume that fear manifests in much more profound ways in the locker room and in interpersonal relationships. So I read it as a ton of frustration, realizing just how much bigger a task this is than the assumption when everybody.
But I think that is a clear message to the locker room that it's you either step up or get out. That's what I got from it. Like, you can read it on his face. You don't have to sit
the
like
bark is it's all bark. I mean, step up or what? We're going to buy you out of your $16 million a year. He doesn't have.
Hey,
he doesn't. That's above his pay grade.
I don't know.
That's above his pay grade. So it's basically saying, you be better. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Do you want to come to the commissary and share a coffee? Like, that's the same issue that's been pervasive in this team, is that the people that deserve to get called out aren't getting called out. And the Kosies and the Amy Mabikas are catching strays. Now, Amy Mabika is not my favorite player. I think that's pretty clear. But how much of, like, why are we leveling such unholy criticism on these people when the people that deserve it are bulletproof? That's been my mandate this entire show. Like,
I don't think
can't stand it anymore.
I don't think anyone's been bulletproof in the last 2 years. I think everyone's fair game because everyone's had a say in, feedback on that, right? Like, you look at this whole team and everybody around it for the last 2 years, it's been a tire fire. We've had more issues everywhere off the field than and you know what I mean? It's just, it's hard to sit here and say, like, we got to go through another rebuild, another year of waiting, another, like, again, it's all year long we've said all we wanted is effort and hustle and work rate, and we haven't even got that lately. So that's, so there does have to be some serious conversations at some point, and at some point they're going to have to bite the bullet and say, look, we're going to take a financial hit, because otherwise you are going to lose fans, it's inevitable. You can't, this is a very loyal, you have to give it to TFC Life, is a very loyal fan base.
I agree.
Absolutely. And,
but I think something broke profoundly on Wednesday. Everybody was mad in a way I've not seen before this season.
Yeah, I think,
right?
I think so.
I think that.
Yeah,
I think
that was the heat, Jeff, and the fact that no one could get into the ground for 2 hours because of the traffic. That was more. Everyone's like,
"Oh my god!" Now BMO grounds crew is going to catch strays. Was it that there's no sippy cups on our beer? The team would be better if they brought the adult sippy cup lids back, guys. That's the be all and end all.
100% agree.
No, it would. It would.
You're right. If you get it.
But TFC, John Herdman and the team are going to have to bring their problems first to Columbus away tomorrow, where they take on MLS Cup finalists, great, and the MLS Cup champions. So let's see how that goes. But let's really quickly bring up next week, midweek, is now turning into a very important game, where TFC will be taking on Forge FC in the Canadian Championship. Look, a lot of people are going into this thinking TFC are going to roll Forge. People know that I don't think that's going to be the case.
We haven't rolled anybody.
Dude, the Chicago Fire beat us 4-1. Yeah.
Maybe 2 months ago, or after we won our last game, we probably did think that. But there's no one in their right mind that can look at the current team we have and be confident, even going into Hamilton, that we can scrape, like, we might be able to pull off a close game, but it's not going to be
the only team TFC is going to beat is TFC in FIFA. If real life was FIFA and you could play TFC against TFC, they'd either draw each other or one TFC would win, and that would be a win for TFC. Other than that, guys, this is Bobby Smirniotis. He's had eons to prepare for our one-dimensional flaccid
Yes.
attack. They're going to murder us.
Okay,
It's
whoa,
going
whoa,
to
whoa,
be-
whoa,
Or just
whoa.
drop- no,
I
no,
don't know
no.
if they're gonna
Well,
murder. I
first
do
of all-
think TFC
Yeah.
will win the two-legged series. Hold on, wait a minute. TFC are gonna win the
Have
two-legged
you
series.
seen Forge
okay?
lately?
Yeah, they haven't
ain't for
actually
sure.
been
Forge is
that good. I'm
struggling right
about
now.
to go watch them in about
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
They've
So
lost like
report
2 or
back.
3 games in a row. They
Mhm.
haven't been playing well. Like they as much as TFC need a win right now, just for their own morale.
Like Forge, like just so for those who are not watching the Canadian Premier League and are paying attention, like Forge, obviously they're 4-time Canadian Premier League champions. They have been the class of the league since day one. Okay,
Huge.
This year
with
they're
big games.
they're not the Forge they have been in the past. Right, like,
They're
still
still
good.
gonna murder us at home.
They're
They're
okay,
still
fair
gonna
enough. I
murder
don't
us.
think that's going to happen, but okay,
Okay.
but like,
Yep.
I think they have been decent this year, but they have slipped. Like, just be real. In terms of the pecking order in the Canadian Premier League, in my opinion, they have been surpassed by Atletico Ottawa because Atletico Ottawa spent a ton of money this year, but at least CPL money. But and they're just coming off losing against Atletico Ottawa 4-3. This is the first time they haven't won a game in which they scored 3 goals. So the wheels aren't falling off at Forge, but they are not exactly in the best form right now. They're kind of indifferent.
People in glass houses, teams in glass houses.
Yeah, but at the same time,
what Mike's
at the
trying
same
to say is
time-
this could be 0-0.
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be a boring 0-0 that everybody's going to defend. No, I think, look, Forge fans will bring up the fact that they almost beat us in the Cup in 2020, that ended up being in 2022.
20X, whatever.
But I
the
mean,
hell,
there's
one
no
time
point in
had no
even talking
meaning,
about that game because, I mean, I forgot to say, Alejandro Pozuelo started and scored in that game. So, this is a completely different team. But it will be tougher than I think people want to believe it will be. And I know Turks think this is going to be easy. Turks, you're nuts. Like, you're nuts.
Turks, you're nuts.
You're nuts.
You're
If you think this is
insane.
going to be 5-0,
Yeah,
you're
you
nuts.
think
If it's
we're on
5-0,
crack,
if
man.
it ends
I'll
up being
have what you're
5-0, I'll
having.
be surprised. I will be shocked if it's 5-0, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think TFC win the series for sure, but I don't. They should win
Well,
the
that's
series.
because we have 18 weeks in between legs, so that's we
Yeah.
might get some
Yeah.
import.
And
Because
Yeah.
Leagues Cup,
yeah.
yay!
It'll be
Um,
two
You might
different
have the
teams.
unicorn team out by then.
The team that Noel's right. The team that Forge is going to see on next Wednesday will not be the team they're going to see come August. Guaranteed. We will have players gone by
I
then.
think the
We will have
second leg
players-
team will be the American team.
Mm.
Would you like to tweet out?
You saw that. You saw that post.
Oh,
yeah,
really bad.
yeah.
to see.
Cringy. Really.
Toronto.
I'm
Thank you,
about
Mike.
to go see
I
some
had-
people over at Forge and ask some questions.
Yeah,
But really
yeah.
quickly before we jump off here,
Guys, that was funny. I'm sorry, that was really funny. And
was
people
funny,
are
but-
taking it way. Yeah, AI
well, it's
is
banter.
funny.
It's banter.
Yeah, it's banter.
Banter.
It's funny
Yeah.
banter.
Here's the thing is,
Mhm.
it would be funnier if TFC thought it was enough to do something, but they
Well, that's
just
the
like,
thing.
hey, all right.
TFC do not
Like,
think about
yeah.
Forge, and Forge do nothing but think about TFC. But like, but that's the nature of those kind of. I don't even want to really call it a rivalry because it just there hasn't been enough games to really call it a rivalry. But here's a question for you. So away fans have been complaining a little bit
I love this
about
question.
Forge's pricing for away tickets. It is $50 for the away section for the game on Wednesday. I wanted to
Aaron,
get your
how is
guys'
AI
thought on that.
outdated banter? That's like an oxymoron. The newest technology ever is outdated banter. Nope. Sorry, Aaron. Disagree. Love you, buddy, but it's not outdated banter.
I think
anyway, go
I
ahead.
think back to Mike's question. I think the ticket pricing is genius. You know why? Because those that are pondering going from TFC were like, it's $50. I'm not spending $50 plus the drive to Hamilton. You get a smaller crowd. Price
Right, because nobody likes money. No. That's
No.
amazing. No, we're gonna fall on our
trust
sword
me, I
here
know
because
people
we.
Hamilton. They are not happy.
Yeah.
They are not
Yeah.
happy.
No,
People
it's-
aren't coming. They're happy. Not happy. TFC fans have not been buying. snapping
Yeah, I
these
know.
tickets.
No, I can tell you, I've heard a lot of unhappiness from the Forge camp. Is this
They screwed up.
1993? Is it I mean, $50 in 2024 is like $5. Like, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, are we living in the past?
Well, I think
No,
it's
it's
quite.
not worth it. It's not worth it, Jeff. I'm sorry. We can go watch any
It's
MLS club outside of Miami and pay less than that for an away ticket.
Are you
It's
kidding?
not
A
going to
TFC ticket is
Hamilton.
more than
It's
$50.
Hamilton.
We're used to our
No, it's not.
supporter
No,
Hey,
seats
Chicago's
costing
giving away
pennies.
free Moscow
I'm
mules
not-
with every ticket.
I'm not. There's nothing
Mhm.
exciting enough to get me hyped enough to waste my money to go to Hamilton.
Rude, first
For
of
an
all.
away.
Rude.
Rude, first of all.
I'm probably
Second,
moving there, and Mike lives there, so
So
What? You want me? Hold
Yeah.
on. You want me to fake it?
Really not.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't.
I won't believe you. So you're done here.
Scarborough boy.
Yeah.
You don't know Scarborough man don't play. So I'm sorry. There's no desire to go there at $50. I would pay
Anyway.
$20-$30 for a ticket, but not 50.
well, I'll say
You
this.
know,
I'll say
I
this.
might
$20
do it.
bucks. That's a beer. Like, I mean, this is craziness. Like,
I agree. Like
$50.
I'm going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. My ticket
you know,
didn't cost
whatever.
$50, but
yeah, I paid. You'd say, but like, but so here's the thing, right? The one reasonable thing I can sort of see as an argument for the pricing of the away ticket is that, like, I'm going to Montreal. I think some of you two are as well. I'm going to Montreal in 2 weekends. Okay. And the away ticket in Montreal is cheaper than it is to go to Hamilton.
Facts.
because
right?
it's
And, like,
Montreal.
sure.
With
But
the
then you also get
weekend party.
then you spend the rest of the year
Yeah.
getting their emails, which you have to keep blocking and spamming for one calendar year until you have
Hey,
to
I
need
still
it
get Columbus
again
Crew
the
emails all
following
the time.
year.
They're lovely.
They're lovely.
No.
Messi's
But I
coming.
actually,
Yeah.
I joke. I was supposed to be in Vancouver this week. My flight got canceled yesterday, so I will be buying a $50 flipping ticket. Damn it.
Hey, there you go.
Happily. $100 I can understand. That's getting a little crazy. But $50, like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty old, and even I am like, yeah, it's not 1998 anymore. $50, like, you can't leave your house without dropping
No.
$50. Like,
That's not the
you know?
point. It's a Canadian Championship game. You want to promote the
Mhm.
game, not turn. Like, I'm sorry. There's
That's
a reason TFC fans aren't going to join.
All right, Louise, that's perfect. If you give Bob Young $50, you're a psycho. Absolutely, he doesn't need it. That being said, we're TFC fans. If $50 is your line of demarcation for supporting your club, actually, that's so gatekeepy. Forget I said that. That's absolutely the wrong tack. But I'm just saying, for me, $50, whatever. I shit out $50, but
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. It's like $50. Yeah, I'm going to support my club. I get it why people won't go. Like, I'm not here judging you if you don't want to go, like, and don't want to spend the money. I completely understand why. For me, I'm gonna go support my club against the club that really gets on my case for not supporting them when playing TFC. Considering I used to work there, so come catch some strays with me is what I'm really trying to say. Just come catch some strays for me from Hamilton people who think I should be supporting Forge in this game. But because like,
and
right
you don't
now,
have to buy a
it's kinda
$50
lonely.
away ticket.
I'm gonna be kind of lonely out there catching some strays.
Yeah, you can buy a ticket anywhere in the ground and move around like
This
a
is
big
also
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
also
yeah.
true.
Mike, can we actually give a shout out to
Yes,
a big Forge supporter?
100%. Please.
Oh yeah,
I think
yes indeed.
I can't recall his Twitter handle, but he's your know him better than I do.
Offside twice. Offside twice.
Yeah,
Isn't
Yeah,
that
it is,
Alan?
yes.
So Alan had I believe it was a stroke on the weekend.
It was a stroke.
It
yeah.
was?
Yeah, last week.
I don't know if anyone has any updates, but I wish him.
He's
all the
out
best.
now?
Yeah, he actually posted today.
Okay.
He is leaving hospital today. So just our best wishes and thoughts are obviously with Alan.
Yeah,
He's a friend of
100%.
ours. And obviously we wish him and his family all well. I'm thinking about his son as well.
Scary.
It's at like every Forge game.
Um,
Our thoughts and obviously our best wishes for recovery are with Alan as
100%.
well.
He'll never
But yeah,
see
he
this
did
because he
post-
refuses to watch this show out of spite. I've asked him a million times. And
and he
yeah.
You know
has
what?
no problem telling
Nice
me
things
so.
about
so.
Hamilton, Jeff.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
send him clip this and send it to him that we are showing him.
Oh,
I'm not doing
100%.
extra work for celebrity fan Alan Gorman. Forget about it. He's just going to insult me. It's not happening. So, yeah.
Well,
no, screw that.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
I think we'll drop it there because I have a football match to go to.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
about
but,
to call
Del
it.
Beldo.
I'm about to jump out, and then at 9:00, go watch TFC kick lumps out of Jefferson Soteldo. That'd be fun.
Oh, can't wait.
Hold on.
Rematch.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
It's Canada. Clarify. We're watching Canada tonight beat Venezuela, not TFC.
No, I don't care.
Yeah,
I just want to see
TFC doesn't beat anybody. You don't have to qualify.
That's also true.
TFC doesn't ever win. So yeah, it's Canada. Go Canada. I'm gonna have to watch the replay because I am previously engaged. So I'm actually going to turn off my internet in about 20 minutes because I don't want to know anything about anything until I get back from this rock concert. So
I'm just going to
Jeff
spam
out
Jeff on Twitter.
You're not because I'm dead. It would be
Jeff
dead.
is
You'll be deaf to his social media for the next couple hours. All right, thank you for tuning in to another Toronto Till I Die. Follow us on Instagram if you haven't already. TTID show. Search Toronto Till I Die to find us. Noel, Sean, where can the good people find you? Obviously, they know how to find the Tunnel Club already, but where can they find you on the socials?
Oh, Sean put his glasses on. He means business.
I'm blind as a bat. At CDN Footy Guy on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, but best place to find me is on Twitter.
Right on.
Yep. And I'm obviously NC Allen 80 on Twitter.
Just take a screen cap.
You can see
everybody
us.
take
We're
a screen cap.
Yeah, exactly. It's on.
Right
Search
there.
TFC Live, we come up.
There you go. Exactly.
There you
Exactly.
No one wants to know where to find me. Just look under a rock somewhere and you'll see me.
Don't worry, they find you. They always find you.
Yeah, they always seem to find me. Yeah.
Like, subscribe, leave the ratings if you're listening on podcasts. We love you. Thank you so much. Everybody in the chat tonight, blowing it up. We love you guys. For Jeff, for Sean, for Noel, I'm Mike. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.